To read out the note in relation to health and safety. Members and all in attendance are asked to exercise personal responsibility in respect of protecting themselves and others from the risk of contacting COVID-19. Members are strongly advised to practice good hygiene and observe the checkerboard seating arrangement. They should also maintain an appropriate level of social distancing during and after the sitting. Masks, preferably of a medical grade, should be worn at all times during the sitting, except when speaking. And I ask for the members' full cooperation in this regard. Garamagid. Okay. Okay, now, Tommy Dre. Okay. I'm taking Leader's Question under Standing Order 36. And Arish, just modulate the Shrinta Ama, the Yihil Cleelan, the Shrinta Ama, Garamagid. I talk to Marylou McDonald.
As we speak, hundreds of truckers and hauliers are protesting outside the gates of the Dáil because they are being absolutely crucified. These are small and family businesses already to the pin of their collar with rip-off insurance costs, extortionate utility bills and the domestic cost of living. And now skyrocketing increases in fuel are the final straw for many. Hauliers are essential workers who played a huge part in keeping the show on the road during the COVID emergency. And their protest today is a reaction to the escalating cost of energy and the fuel crisis. So Taoiseach, government needs to show up for them now with an alleviation package that includes an overhaul of the diesel rebate scheme to make it really work for this sector. People are under real, unbearable and ever-increasing pressure. Since last year, the price of electricity is up 16%. Gas is up 23%, home heating oil an incredible 71%. So how on earth is anyone, any family, expected to afford to heat their home with jumps like that? People are overwhelmed and government sits on its hands. Indeed, you've come along with a hike in carbon taxes. This will undoubtedly make things even worse for families and businesses, including those who are demonstrating today. Taoiseach, the carbon tax hike needs to be scrapped. It is the wrong move at the wrong time. The truth is that households face a real emergency in heating and lighting their homes and running their vehicles. And the weather is getting colder, it's getting darker. Thousands of workers, bear in mind, have been told now to work from home. So people will have their heating and lighting on earlier and for longer. And their bills consequently will go up even further. We know that workers and families have been through a very tough 18 months. Many were just getting back on their feet, just about coping. And Christmas, Taoiseach, is a happy time, but as you know, it's also a very expensive time of the year. People don't need the added stress of enormous energy bills landing through the door in December, January and February. The cost of staying warm is also incredibly stressful for our older people and for whom the cold weather can be especially dangerous. And the increase in the fuel allowance simply won't bridge that gap. Much more needs to be done. We know that there are international factors at play in all of this. We know that big energy companies have passed the extraordinary global price increases onto customers, but the government does have to respond with ideas and actions to alleviate the pressure put on families and on businesses. Tá Billy Fuinnev ag imacht as smacht, tá daoine agus gnóthais faoi bhrú, tá brise umláin ag tastal uhu, táim ag éirí ort an vat, a haar squealia Billy Fuinnev fag 3V. There are things that can be done. Recently, Taoiseach, I asked you to engage with the EU Commission and to temporarily waive VAT on energy bills for a period of 3 months. You refused to answer me on that occasion. But I want to put it to you again that this is a common sense intervention that would make a real difference. It's something, by the way, that's already implemented by others in the EU seeking to protect their people from these energy hikes. So I'm asking again, Taoiseach, will you now waive VAT on energy bills for 3 months and give workers and families a real break?
Taoiseach.
First of all, could I say that the energy price increases are driven almost totally by global price rises across the entire European Union and the globe. The rebound of the economies internationally has led to supply chain constraints and also to real pressure on gas prices and on oil prices. That is the fundamental driver here. It's a global phenomenon, not unique to Ireland in any shape or form. And there is a diesel rebate scheme. It was introduced in 2013. It does offer a partial excise refund to qualifying operators when the retail price of auto diesel is relatively high, and it kicks in at the pumps above 123 per litre, increasing gradually to a maximum rebate of 7.5 cents when diesel reaches 143 per litre. In Budget 2020, in light of the challenges arising from Brexit uncertainty facing the industry, the marginal rate of compensation of prices over 132 was doubled up to the maximum rate of 7.5 cents per litre, and that has been maintained. And the government and the department is in constant contact with the Irish Truckers and Haulers Association and the industry relative to broader issues pertaining to the industry in terms of a new strategy, in terms of the requirements for the sector going forward, in terms of skills, for example, and also in terms of the energy price issue, which is a serious issue across the board. There is no denying that. And it is, as I say, the global phenomenon arising from the price of raw materials, exchange rates and taxation and so on. The carbon tax is a very small part of what's going on at the moment in terms of the global phenomenon, and I think it's lacking balance to throw that into the mix in terms of creating that as the main reason for why there's been a very significant increase in energy prices across Europe. The carbon tax is part of a climate change agenda. It's not popular to do things like that, but it's the right thing to do for the future of our young generation in this country, to really deal with climate change along with a whole range of issues. But everyone wants to pull decision-making in relation to climate change, and everybody wants, including yourself, keep on wanting to defer decisions that the very best of advice is suggesting is necessary. It's the popular thing to do is to defer, because you won't, create any waves, but it's not, I don't think it's the right thing for the future of the planet. I don't think it's the right thing for the future of people. I think we do need to protect people from energy prices, and the carbon tax helps us to develop a really comprehensive retrofitting program, for example, which is ultimately the best way to reduce energy pricing. And that is happening now in terms of a lot of retrofitted homes, and we'll have to do an awful lot more into the future in relation to that. In terms of the VAT issue, I said yesterday, and you keep coming up with solutions that don't match what's possible, but they sound good and they sound popular. But you came up with a zero VAT a couple of weeks ago. It simply can't be done. We are one of only a few EU countries that, by way of a special derogation from the general EU rules, already apply a reduced rate of VAT of 13.5% to energy prices. Under EU rules, reduced rates of VAT must be between 5 to 15%. So a zero rate, as proposed by yourself, is not possible. Now, you kept saying it, but it's not possible. I'm informed and advised. And under EU rules, our reduced rate of VAT of 13.5% on energy prices cannot be reduced below 12%. If we were to attempt to reduce the rate to, say, 9%, and we've looked at all this, for a few months, the VAT rate would afterwards revert up to the standard rate of 23%.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Because you'd be opting out of the derogation we currently have. Again, you need to put forward proposals, Deputy, that are credible and that can actually be delivered.
Deputy Marylou.
Well, Taoiseach, I have put forward two propositions to you. Firstly, the carbon tax will have an effect of raising people's bills. That's a matter of fact. And I've also advanced the proposition of waiving VAT on a temporary basis for 3 months. You've knocked both of those back. By the way, I am well aware, we are all well aware that the energy crisis is global. I'm not laying that at your feet, but it is your responsibility as Taoiseach, it's your government's responsibility to respond to the crisis for household and businesses. So, for example, I've Lorraine from Cork, from your neck of the woods, sent me her bills, a bill for May 2021 and then one for October for heating her home. And she has a jump of €100 just in that timeline. I want to know, what are you doing for Lorraine today and now and coming into this winter? She's got a house full of kids. She's 3 or 4 kids to raise, and they are struggling. And there's families like that right across the state. What are you doing for those families? Never mind your view of me or what I have to say. You're the Taoiseach.
Thank you.
What are you going to do? Have you spoken to the Commission about the VAT option?
Thank you, Deputy.
Have you explored that fully? Have you put it to them that you wish to do that? And if my ideas aren't runners, what's your idea? What are you doing for families and for businesses now?
No, I just simply say I think we all have a duty in here to be honest with people and not put forward ideas or proposals that do not carry any credibility attached to them if they can't be done. And if you look, that's more of the politics. And yes, we've had a discussion across Europe. But I want to make the point, if I could, through the chair, without interruption, as is a consistent habit of the deputy opposite, I want to make the point that we do want, and we do understand fully, the pressures on households. Now, the carbon tax doesn't apply to electricity bills. That's a separate issue. We are monitoring the situation in terms of household pressures. We did increase the fuel allowance. We did provide taxation measures in the budget to try and help people to cope with the costs. The costs are global. They're driven by world events in terms of the response to COVID. And we're going to see what we can do. Our main focus is not to try and come up with sort of false ideas that will never carry, but rather to say, how can we get household bills down in the short term? That's where the government focus is. And that's why we've used receipts from carbon tax to significantly increase the fuel allowance and increase the numbers of people who will be eligible for the fuel allowance, also to protect people who need protection. But that is what we intend to do.
I'm moving on. If we could move on with a little cooperation, social